The desperate call. The Kago warships surrounded the planet, annihilating the Xerian defenses with merciless barrages of superheated plasma. Captain Grayson Reeves gritted his teeth as the distress call cut off abruptly, the final screams of the alien commander still echoing in his ears. The UES Odyssey, the only human ship within light years, hung silently in space, dwarfed by the enemy fleet. Reeves had seen the tactical scans. He knew his small science vessel stood no chance against the warships of the Kago Empire. The ruthless aliens sought to enslave the galaxy and eradicate all who opposed them. Trillions had already perished, entire species wiped from existence. The Xerians would be next unless Reeves intervened. The Odyssey lacked weapons but carried an elite squad of space marines, humanity's finest warriors, genetically enhanced and equipped with powered assault armor. They were one of mankind's greatest triumphs, but they numbered only 50. The Kago forces numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Reeves had to act fast. Reinforcements were days away. The Xerians would all be dead or enslaved by then. He had to hold off the Kago long enough for the main human battle fleet to arrive, long enough to save billions of lives, and turn the tide of the galactic war. The odds of success were nearly zero. The price of failure was extinction. But when faced with overwhelming odds and unwinnable battles, humans always found a way. It was time to show the galaxy what humanity could do. Back on Earth, Admiral Vance slammed his fist on the console as Reeves's desperate plea crackled through the comm system. The transmission was garbled, but the message was clear. The Xerians were on the verge of annihilation, and the Odyssey was their only hope. Vance spun to face his aide. "Notify the Fifth Fleet. I want every available ship prepped and ready to jump within the hour." "Sir, the Council." "I'll deal with the Council. Get me a channel now." The Council's decision. Vance stormed into the conference room, his uniform still askew. The Council members glared at him. Their disapproval itched into every line of their faces. Councillor Graves spoke first, his voice dripping with disdain. "Admiral, you have no authority to deploy the fleet without our approval. I have the authority to defend Earth and her allies from any threat. The Kago are not our concern," Graves cut in. "This is not our war." Vance slammed his hand on the table, silencing the room. "Not our war. The Kago have slaughtered trillions. They won't stop at the Xerians. If we don't stand now, we'll be next." Murmurs rippled through the Council, but Vance pressed on. "The Xerians are an advanced species with technology that could revolutionize our understanding of the universe. An alliance with them could change everything. But beyond that, it's the right thing to do. We cannot stand by while innocents are slaughtered." The debate raged for hours, with Vance passionately arguing his case. Some councillors wavered, but others remained steadfast in their opposition. As the deliberations dragged on, the Odyssey and her crew fought for their lives. The Space Marines, led by the indomitable Sergeant Hawkins, launched daring raids on the Kago ships, planting explosives and sabotaging key systems. Reeves directed the Odyssey's movements, using the ship's superior speed and maneuverability to evade the enemy's fire. The Xerians rallied behind Commander Zorin, inspired by the humans' bravery. They launched their own ships, harrying the Kago flanks and drawing fire away from the Odyssey. Together, the humans and Xerians held the line, but they were vastly outnumbered. Every hour brought more Kago reinforcements, and the defenders were pushed to the brink. The last stand. On the Odyssey's bridge, Reeves gripped the console as another explosion rocked the ship. Alarms blared, and smoke filled the air, but he kept his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Shield status," he barked. "Shields at 15%. The tactical officer reported. "We can't take much more of this." Reeves gritted his teeth. "Reroute all auxiliary power to shields, and get me Vance on the line." The Admiral's face appeared on the screen, haggard and strained. "Captain, what's your status?" "We're holding, sir, but barely. Please tell me you have good news." Vance hesitated, glancing off-screen. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. "The Council is still deliberating. I'm doing everything I can." But Reeves's heart sank, but he forced himself to nod. "I understand, sir. We'll hold as long as we can." As the transmission cut out, Reeves turned to his crew. They were battered and bruised, but the fire in their eyes remained undiminished. "You heard the Admiral," Reeves said. "We're on our own, but we're not giving up. The Xerians are counting on us, and we will not let them down. We'll fight to the last man, the last bullet, the last breath. Because that's what humans do. We stand, we fight, and we win, no matter the odds. So let's show these Kago bastards what we're made of." A cheer went up from the crew, and Reeves felt a surge of pride. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but they were human, and that was enough. The battle raged on, the Odyssey and her allies fighting with everything they had. They were battered and bloodied, but they would not yield. They would hold the line no matter the cost, because the alternative was unthinkable. Reinforcements on the way. The council chamber erupted with a cacophony of voices as Admiral Vance made his final impassioned plea. He had laid out the facts. The dire situation faced by the Xerians and the brave crew of the Odyssey. He had appealed to their sense of duty, their humanity, and their self-interest. And now, as the debate reached its crescendo, he could see the tide turning in his favor. One by one, the councilors cast their votes. Some still held out, their faces etched with doubt and fear. But in the end, the ayes had it. The UESC would send reinforcements to the Xerian system. They would stand with their allies against the Kago threat. Vance sagged with relief, but only for a moment. He knew that the real work was just beginning. The fleet would take time to assemble, to arm and provision for the long journey ahead. Every minute counted, and he could only hope that Reeves and his crew could hold out long enough for help to arrive. Light years away, the Kago fleet surged forward, a tidal wave of destruction bearing down on the Xerian homeworld. Their ships blackened the sky, their weapons charged and ready to rain death upon the planet below. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Reeves watched the tactical display with growing dread. The Kago were coming, and they were coming in force. The Xerian defenses were already buckling under the onslaught, their ships blasted to fragments by the relentless barrage. A desperate plan. "We have to do something," Reeves growled, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "We can't just sit here and watch them die." Commander Zoran, the leader of the Xerian forces, nodded grimly. "Agreed, but what can we do? We're outnumbered and outgunned." Reeves stared at the display, his mind racing. The Kago fleet was vast, but it was not invincible. Every armada had a weak point, a vulnerability that could be exploited. And then he saw it. "There," he said, pointing to the screen. "The command ship. If we can take that out, it'll disrupt their coordination. Maybe buy us some time." Zoran frowned. "It's heavily guarded. We'd never get close enough." "We don't have to," Reeves said, a plan forming in his mind. "We just have to get close enough to launch a few torpedoes. If we can punch a hole in their defenses, your ships can do the rest." Zoran considered for a moment, then nodded. "It's a good plan. Risky, but it's the best we've got. Let's do it." The Odyssey and the remnants of the Xerian fleet moved into position, their engines thrumming with power. They knew that this was a desperate gamble, that the odds of success were slim. But they also knew that they had no choice. The fate of an entire world hung in the balance. The final assault. The Kago ships loomed before them, a wall of metal, flesh, and hatred. Reeves gripped the arms of his chair, his eyes narrowed in concentration. "Fire," he said. The Odyssey's torpedoes leaked from their tubes, streaking toward the Kago command ship. The enemy's point defenses opened up, filling the void with flak and laser fire, but the torpedoes bore on unwavering. The first salvo went wide, detonating harmlessly against the command ship shields, but the second found its mark, blasting through the weakened defenses and slamming into the hull. Explosions rippled across the ship's surface, secondary blasts tearing through the structure. Direct hit. The tactical officer shouted. Their shields are down. Zoran, now, Reeves ordered. The Xerian ships surged forward, their weapons blazing as they tore into the cargo lines. The enemy fleet wavered, their coordination shattered. The Xerians pressed the advantage, cutting through the cargo lines and dragging them back. But the battle was far from over. More cargo ships poured into the system, their weapons trained on the beleaguered defenders. The Odyssey shuddered as another volley of plasma fire struck its hull. The arrival of reinforcements. Captain, we've got incoming. The sensor officer reported. Multiple hyperspace signatures. Reeves's heart leaped. Is it the fleet? The view screen flickered to life, showing the vast expanse of space filled with the familiar shapes of UESC warships. Admiral Vance's voice came over the comm. Odyssey, this is Admiral Vance. Reinforcements have arrived. Let's show these cargo what humans are made of. The UESC fleet swept into the fray, their weapons blazing as they tore into the cargo forces. The tide of battle shifted dramatically as the combined might of human and Xerian ships overwhelmed the enemy. The cargo fought fiercely, but they were outmatched and outmaneuvered. One by one, their ships fell, consumed by the relentless onslaught. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Reeves watched with a mixture of relief and exhaustion as the last of the cargo ships were destroyed. The battle was won, but the cost had been high. The Xerians had suffered heavy losses, and the Odyssey was barely holding together. Admiral Vance's face appeared on the screen. Captain Reeves, you and your crew have done an extraordinary job. Earth and the Xerians owe you a great debt. Reeves nodded, too tired to speak. The war was far from over, but for now, they had won a crucial victory. The cargo had been defeated, and the Xerians were safe. Humanity had once again proven its resilience and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. Rebuilding and reflection. The aftermath of the battle was both a time of relief and reflection. The once pristine cities of the Xerian homeworld now bore the scars of war. Buildings lay in ruins, and the landscape was pockmarked with craters from the relentless bombardment. The survivors, both human and Xerian, worked side by side to clear the rubble and rebuild what had been destroyed. Captain Reeves stood amidst the wreckage, watching as his crew assisted the Xerians in their efforts. Sergeant Hawkins, his armor scorched and battered, directed a team of Marines as they lifted debris and rescued trapped civilians. Reeves felt a swell of pride at the sight. Despite the devastation, the spirit of cooperation and resilience was strong. Commander Zoran approached, his expression somber. Captain, we owe you and your people a great deal. Without your intervention, we would have been lost. Reeves shook his head. You don't owe us anything. We did what we had to do. The cargo threat is a danger to us all. Zoran nodded. Still, your bravery and sacrifice will not be forgotten. We will rebuild, and we will stand ready to fight alongside you against the cargo empire. A new alliance. In the weeks that followed, the UESC and the Xerians formalized an alliance. Diplomatic envoys traveled between Earth and the Xerian homeworld, working out the details of mutual defense and cooperation. The combined knowledge and technology of both species promised to create a powerful force against the cargo. Admiral Vance visited the Xerian capital, where he met with Xerian leaders and scientists. The exchange of ideas and technology was a hopeful sign of what could be achieved when different species united for a common cause. During one of the meetings, a young Xerian scientist named Lyra approached Vance with a proposal. Admiral, we have developed a new type of energy shield that could enhance the defensive capabilities of your ships. With your permission, I would like to work with your engineers to integrate this technology into the UESC fleet. Vance smiled, impressed by the scientist's enthusiasm. That sounds like an excellent idea, Lyra. Our engineers will be thrilled to collaborate with you. preparing for the next battle. As the rebuilding continued and the alliance strengthened, the threat of the Kago Empire loomed ever larger. Reports of Kago activity in neighboring systems grew more frequent, and it became clear that the enemy was regrouping for another assault. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Reeves reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Kago were massing a fleet near the border of Zirian space, and it was only a matter of time before they launched another attack. "We need to be ready," Reeves said, turning to Sergeant Hawkins. "This time, we won't be caught off guard." Hawkins nodded. "We'll be ready, sir. The Marines are training harder than ever, and our new recruits are shaping up well. We're also integrating some of the new Zirian tech into our armor." Reeves felt a sense of determination. They had faced impossible odds before and emerged victorious. They would do it again. The calm before the storm. In the calm before the storm, there were moments of respite and reflection. Reeves took the opportunity to write letters to his family back on Earth, knowing that the coming battle could be his last. He wrote of the bravery of his crew, the resilience of the Zirians, and his hope for a future free from the Kago threat. Sergeant Hawkins, too, found solace in writing. He kept a journal, recording the events of the battle and his thoughts on the war. It was a way to process the trauma and to remind himself of the cause they were fighting for. The Zirians, meanwhile, held ceremonies to honor the fallen and to strengthen their resolve. Their culture placed great importance on remembrance and unity, and these rituals helped to heal the wounds of war. The final battle. The day of the final battle arrived. The combined UESC and Zirian fleet gathered at the edge of Zirian space, ready to face the Kago Armada. The tension was palpable as the ships took their positions, their weapons primed, and their crews on high alert. Captain Reeves stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. "All ships, this is Captain Reeves. The Kago are coming. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember the lives we've saved and the future we're protecting. Let's show them what humanity and the Zirians can do." The first Kago ships emerged from hyperspace, their dark hulks blotting out the stars. The enemy fleet was vast, but the defenders were ready. The battle began with a furious exchange of fire, energy beams, and plasma bolts streaking across the void. The Odyssey led the charge, its newly enhanced shields absorbing the brunt of the Kago assault. The UESC and Zirian ships moved in perfect coordination, their combined firepower overwhelming the Kago defenses. The enemy fought back with savage intensity, but they were no match for the united front of humanity and their allies. Sacrifice and victory. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Kago were using a new type of weapon, a devastating energy cannon that could cut through even the strongest shields. The defenders struggled to adapt, their ships taking heavy damage. "We can't hold out much longer," Reeves said, his voice grim. "We need to take out that cannon." Sergeant Hawkins, ever the fearless warrior, stepped forward. "Sir, I volunteer to lead a boarding party. We'll disable that cannon from the inside." Reeves nodded, knowing the risks but also the necessity. "Good luck, Hawkins. We're counting on you." Hawkins and his team launched from the Odyssey, their assault craft streaking toward the Kago command ship. They dodged enemy fire, landing on the hull and cutting their way inside. The battle within the ship was fierce, but the Marines fought with unmatched determination. They reached the cannon's control room, planting charges and disabling the weapon. As the Kago command ship erupted in flames, the tide of battle turned. The UESC and Zirian forces pressed their advantage, driving the enemy back. The Kago fleet began to crumble, their ships retreating in disarray. The aftermath. The victory was hard-won, but it was complete. The Kago had been defeated, their threat to the Zirians and humanity neutralized. The survivors celebrated their triumph, though the cost was heavy. Captain Reeves stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, looking out at the wreckage of the battle. "We did it," he said softly. "We saved them." Admiral Vance's face appeared on the view screen. "Captain, I want to commend you and your crew for your extraordinary bravery. You've proven that when we stand together, we can overcome any challenge." Reeves nodded, feeling a mix of pride and sorrow. "Thank you, Admiral. We'll continue to stand ready for whatever comes next." A new era. With the Kago threat diminished, the UESC and Xerian alliance entered a new era of cooperation and exploration. Scientists and engineers from both species worked together to develop new technologies, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, but with their combined strength, humanity and the Xerians were prepared to face any challenge. Captain Reeves and his crew continued to serve on the Odyssey, exploring new worlds and defending their allies. Sergeant Hawkins, though scared by the battles he had fought, remained a symbol of human courage and resilience. Together, they embarked on new missions, driven by a shared purpose and an unbreakable bond. The legacy of the battle. The Battle of Xerian Prime became a legendary tale, told and retold across the galaxy. It was a story of bravery, sacrifice, and the indomitable spirit of humanity and their allies. Monuments were erected to honor the fallen, and the names of those who had fought were etched into the annals of history. For Captain Reeves, the legacy of the battle was a reminder of the strength that came from unity. He continued to lead his crew with determination, knowing that their actions had not only saved lives, but had also forged a path toward a brighter future. Preparing for new threats. Even as they celebrated their victory, the UESC and Xerian alliance remained vigilant. They knew that the galaxy was full of unknown dangers, and that new threats could emerge at any time. Their fleets were strengthened, their defenses bolstered, and their resolve unshakable. Captain Reeves and Admiral Vance often discussed the future, planning for potential conflicts and exploring ways to strengthen their alliance. They knew that the key to their survival lay in their ability to adapt and to stand united against any foe. Exploration and discovery. With the immediate threat of the Kago diminished, the UESC and Xerian alliance turned their attention to exploration. They launched joint missions to chart unexplored regions of space, seeking out new allies and uncovering the mysteries of the galaxy. On one such mission, the Odyssey discovered a planet rich in resources and inhabited by a peaceful alien race. The inhabitants, known as the Thalans, welcomed the explorers with open arms, eager to share their knowledge and culture. The encounter marked the beginning of a new era of cooperation and mutual understanding. The power of unity. As the alliance grew stronger, so did the bonds between humanity and the Xerians. They learned from each other, their cultures blending in ways that enriched both species. The power of unity became a guiding principle, shaping their actions and their future. Captain Reeves often spoke of the importance of standing together, his words inspiring others to embrace the ideals of cooperation and resilience. His leadership and the bravery of his crew became a symbol of hope for all who sought a better future. A hopeful future. The galaxy remained a place of wonder and danger, but with the UESC and Xerian alliance leading the way, there was a renewed sense of hope. They faced each challenge with courage and determination, knowing that together they could overcome any obstacle. Captain Reeves stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, looking out at the stars. The journey ahead was uncertain, but he knew that they were ready. With their allies by their side and their hearts full of hope, they would continue to explore, to defend, and to build a future where all could thrive. In the end, the story of humanity and the Xerians was one of triumph and resilience, a testament to the power of unity and the unbreakable spirit of those who dared to dream. The galaxy watched and learned, inspired by their example and ready to join them on the path to a brighter tomorrow.